who would argue that the 60s marked the end of the good old days, the end of family stability, the end of everything being predictable and comfortable. And that was when divorce went up, and that's when people started to question family life and all of those kinds of things. And that's when sexuality ran amok. And there are certain ways you can look at those indicators. But on the most basic level, what I think is important to understand is that the children of the 60s, baby boom children growing up, in some ways behaved a whole lot more like their grandparents than they behaved like their parents. So if we take the long view, what do we see happening in their grandparents' lives? Well, the grandparents grew up in the early decades of the 20th century. What happened then? Massive consumer revolution, a massive sexual revolution. The incidence, if we just want to look at premarital sexual intercourse, which is a very bad indicator of sexual activity, but the one that everyone is obsessed with. So if we want to just look at that, there have really been only 2 times in the last century that particular sexual behavior increased dramatically. One time was in the early 20th century, and the second time was in the 60s. So you have the children then, the grandchildren, behaving in a lot of ways like their grandparents. The divorce rate went up in both eras. Both eras were marked by an explosion of popular culture, new forms of public amusements, especially a powerful youth culture. So somehow the generation in between is what is really strange, and somehow in our popular consciousness we have dubbed them the normal, the traditional. There's nothing traditional about them. They were very bizarre and unusual by historical standards. So one way to look at the 60s is to say, well, the children of the 60s just went right back to the way their grandparents were and picked up and went ahead from there.